Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of 2023 of the Managing Madrid Podcast. Happy New Year to everybody, wherever you're tuning in from. Hope you're all safe. Hope you're all healthy. Hope you're all nice and warm and snug and cozy wherever you are in the world. And I am your host, Kiyan Sobhani, and we're bringing in the new year with Lucas Navarrete on an episode of El Día Después, of course, 2 days after the game itself. 2 days? No, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days. 3 days late, Lucas. We're 3 days late. But that is the nature of New Year's weekend. Lucas, how you doing, man? Happy New Year.
I'm doing fine, thanks. Happy New Year to you and to all the listeners as well. Hope you have a good one.
Did you do anything on New Year's Eve?
No. I just had dinner with the family and all that, and pretty much went back home right after the bells rang.
You lasted for the midnight. I did not.
Yeah. It's pretty much mandatory to do that here in Spain. I know it's not that big of a deal in North America. When I lived there, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's pretty much mandatory here in Spain to at least watch the 12 last seconds of the year and eat those grapes. That it's the tradition here.
The grapes are a great tradition. But I mean, to be fair, midnight in Spain is basically like breakfast in Canada. You guys are awake anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's New Year's or not.
Yeah, it's pretty much the time I usually go to bed. It's pretty much that time, yeah.
We were invited to a few parties, and we were just, I was like, I don't think so. I think we just had a dinner with the kids and the wife, put them to bed, and I wanted to just wake up super early and go to the gym before the big rush. And I did that successfully, and I was super happy with that. Just treating it like another day. But another year has passed, and another year is upon us. And the 2022 calendar year for Real Madrid was phenomenal, unbelievable, fantastic. You know, Lucas, you and I also had the privilege of watching this Champions League run up close. You had a lot of the home games. I did the away games, and it was just so magical to take in. And we were so lucky and privileged to be in that position. And even if you're watching from home, I'm sure you guys were all losing your mind watching all the special moments on TV. If I could go back and relive it for the first time, I would. Everything from Benzema's goals in Stamford Bridge to Rodrigo, the brace against Manchester City, just to experience that for the first time again. The fact that we were able to witness that was really special. So we're going to start 2023, Lucas, with a bang. A game against Cacareño. Is it Cacareño or is it, am I even pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, Cacareño, really. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, yeah.
What a game to start the new year with. We had a open training session open to the public this morning at Valladolid, or more like afternoonish, but around lunchtime or so. And then you had the Carlo Ancelotti post-game quotes after. That's all up on managingmadrid.com. Lucas and I will speak about that. Before we jump into that, Lucas, what is lingering on your mind from the win over Valladolid on Friday? Anything?
I think it was great to start this second half of the season with that kind of win. Real Madrid obviously struggled. It wasn't an easy game. It wasn't the most encouraging of games, if you will. But I thought it was great for once being able to get those 3 points, and obviously even better when Barcelona weren't able to beat the Espanyol the following day. So Real Madrid are back level with Barcelona, and pretty much there's nothing more you could hope for from that first game after the World Cup break. We all knew it was going to be a banana peel game. We all knew it was going to be tough for Madrid to play with composure and with fire and intensity after such a long break. But in the end, the 3 points, Real Madrid got the 3 points, and that's pretty much all that matters, and even more so with Barcelona dropping points. Pretty much in a surprising way, if you will, against Espanyol. I didn't expect them to drop points at home against Espanyol, and Real Madrid definitely can take those, and it'll be interesting to watch the second half of the season.
Especially the way that Barca Espanyol game started, I did not see Espanyol squeaking it with a draw there. As the game progressed, I started to kind of talk myself into like, okay, Espanyol are somehow keeping this at 1-0. Maybe they shithouse their way into a 1-1. And then you just kind of see like Barca kind of lost their intensity after Xavi said after the first 20 minutes. I think that's the way he worded it. I just thought that as the half wore on, they kind of lost a bit of their bite. And at the same time, they just missed some great chances too. And Lewandowski did not have a very good game in front of goal. And then Espanyol just worked their way into a victory. And I also want to say, like, I don't even want to say his name anymore, Lucas, because I feel like saying his name gives him attention that he wants. But a man shall remain nameless because he does not deserve any attention, thinks he's the main character of all these games that he goes to. He thinks everyone buys a ticket to the door for him. And look, the thing is, if that's what he wants, he's getting it. He's winning. He's laughing at all of us complaining about him on Twitter. He's winning. This is what he wants, I think. I think he wants... so I don't know if this is true or not because it came from the Sport paper. They said that it was the 19 minutes of stoppage in that game is the most in history that they've recorded in La Liga. I don't know if that's true or not, but whether it's true or not doesn't matter because there's a lot of stoppage. Sid Lowe, who was pitch side in that game, tweeted something to the effect of like, during the entire time, he managed to piss off everyone during the stoppage and managed to not explain anything to anyone. And on top of that, actually got angry at people. Because the guy who got the red card, who was it? It was Cabrera, I think, or I don't remember who it was.
Cabrera, yes, number 4, Cabrera.
When he rescinds the red card, Sid Lowe was tweeting that he did it like not in an apologetic manner. He did it with anger. Yeah. He's like, "I'm taking your red card away." I thought it was hilarious. The whole thing is hilarious. Anyways,
he's become part of the show. He's become part of the show, whether we like it or not. I'm not a fan of him either. I think those antics you're mentioning and his usual antics during the games are useless. It's not helping him or helping the rest of the referee crew keeping control of the game. I think it's frustrating players even more, the way he talks to them, the way he tries to keep his authority over them. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of Mateu Lahoz. His style of refereeing I'm okay with. Like, I feel like he lets the game flow a little bit more than other referees usually. Like, his tendency to call fouls, for example, is one I particularly like. He allows physical play, more in a Premier League style, if you will. But other than that, his antics are pretty much regrettable and despicable for me. I just don't enjoy him at all. And he knew, as you mentioned, he knows he's part of the show now, and he knows he was the center of attention when the stoppage time was announced later in the second half. He added one more minute, and he knew the cameras were on him. He's just part of the show. He's become part of the show, and I'm not a fan of that. And hopefully, it's not that I wish him to retire already, and I want nothing wrong to happen with his career and all that, but big games for him should not be happening, in my opinion. I don't want him and his show being a part or potentially deciding a trophy by the end of the year.
If he retires, he's going to just immediately get a job on TV, and
absolutely.
In that sense, like, from a branding perspective, what he's doing is working because he's made a name for himself. Yeah. That, like, a lot of referees out after they retire, they're not going to have like a career of like being a star. This guy's got it. It's funny because you say he lets stuff go, but in the last two games, like this and then the Netherlands-Argentina game, he's basically given out a combined 800 red cards and 300 yellow cards
that's right.
over the course of 180 minutes. There was a part where they were waiting for the VAR review, and the camera just is on him and nothing else, and he's just standing in front of the camera and looking at the crowd,
watching,
knowing fully where he is in the screen, and he's just looking out like he's Brad Pitt from Troy, like he's just completely just basking in the moment. Like he wins. We're part of the problem too. He won. He got a segment on this podcast. He's winning. All right. I kind of revisited the Valladolid game and went through some of the numbers and rewatched some of the stuff, as I always do, because I write about it later, like a few days after. And I came away thinking like it was a deserved solid performance that wasn't great, and we struggled for large parts. Courtois had 2 great saves, but I think when you reflect on it, we deserved the victory. We created enough chances. In that first half, we had the Benzema chance. We had another one outside of that. I forget what it was. I think it was the Rudiger header. We had that penalty that should have been called that wasn't called. And then we limited Espanyol to not great chances. I mean, even those 2 Courtois saves, they weren't huge, clear-cut chances, but they were just great strikes and great efforts from the respective strikers. And I thought it was a good performance. I don't think it was great, but all things considered, away stadium, solid performance from the home team. First game back after the World Cup. Got it done. I'm fine with it.
All things considered, as you mentioned, I'm fine with the performance, but the best thing about it is that Real Madrid were able to get the 3 points. None of that would have worked, and I don't think none of us would feel this way about the performance had Real Madrid not scored those 2 goals late in the game. I thought Valladolid had too many very good scoring chances for my taste. Those couple saves from Courtois, obviously one of a set piece. There's pretty much nothing you can do about that in terms of defending overall. But I think it was Real Madrid were kind of lucky to get this win, because when the game was already entering this 75th minute mark or something like that, I wasn't predicting or expecting Real Madrid to turn things around and being able to get the 3 points. But as you mentioned, it was also fair, because I thought the first penalty that wasn't called should have been given for sure, considering the track record we have this season with Asensio against Granada or Almeria, I think it was. So I think ultimately it was fair for Real Madrid to get the 3 points here.
Anything else that you want to talk about from that game? I know you and I were probably pretty happy with the Camavinga thing, because you and I are huge Camavinga agenda pushers.
Camavinga was great, I think. And on the other hand, Valverde was a bit disappointing, in my opinion. Obviously,
I agree.
I think he needs. It's strange, because we all know and probably believe that Valverde is more comfortable as a central midfielder than on the right wing. But track record so far this season has shown him to be a bit more comfortable on the right side. So it's obviously one game after the break and nothing to panic or nothing to be worried about. But I thought Valverde was a bit disappointed and invisible during during this game. And and Camavinga ultimately was very, very encouraging to see him playing and breaking lines and all that. I know that everyone's excited about his potential coming off the bench and changing the course of the game for Real Madrid. But on the other hand, you have to wonder that maybe Real Madrid should give this guy chances to start in 10 straight games. I know that's obviously tough because of how deep Real Madrid are with Modric and Kroos. But until we see that from him, until we kind of have that sample size from him as a starter, we will never know whether he's capable of being a starter right now or not. Everyone keeps saying that he's better as a super sub. I might agree, but we have pretty much no track record from him featuring starting lineup consistently. Getting a consistent run of chances of making to the starting lineup. So I have to wonder what will happen with him. Were he going to get the chance of starting in, I don't know, 5 consecutive games, if you will.
Yeah. Just a quick note on Fede that you touched on very quickly. I think Fede's performance had less to do with positioning and that it was just the first game back after the World Cup. And we can say, well, some players' first game back after the World Cup was quite good. For example, Camavinga, who we just spoke about. But I also just kind of expected, I just, in my brain, I kind of almost scheduled it. I was like, okay, first game back, my expectations are going to be reasonable. I'm going to expect World Cup dip. And if they outperform and they play well, first game back, it's a bonus for me. That's just the way I looked at it. So I'm just kind of like okay with anyone performing badly in the first game. Maybe my standards are lower than other people's, but I just kind of expected it. So I think Fede will be fine. He'll be fine.
On the other hand, I also think that it will not be realistic or fair to expect him to play at the level he was playing before the break. I don't know if that was real or not. It was obviously real, but I don't know if that was sustainable during the course of an entire season, of an entire half of the season, if you will. And he will obviously be much better than he was against Valladolid, and he'll be somewhere close to what he was doing before the break. But expecting that kind of performances on a consistent basis from him might be unrealistic and even a bit unfair at this point.
Yeah, he'll be back. And also, if we get Benzema scoring again, it's going to be huge because we didn't have that in the first half of the season for various reasons, injury, form, etc. And I don't even think he was great against Valladolid. But if you can be not great but score 2 goals, that's a great sign for me. And he was very involved. Absolutely. Matt and I spoke about it. He had a lot of touches on the ball. He had a lot of shots. Yeah, he was present, and I'm totally okay with him not being perfect.
Yeah, his performance, accuracy aside, was great in my opinion. Well, maybe not great, but was more than good in my opinion. And it was one. It reminded me a little bit of that game against Shakhtar earlier this season, where he wasn't scoring and he was struggling in front of goal. But overall, his contribution on the offensive front was pretty good. Fairly good, I think. Maybe not great, definitely, because obviously Benzema is a Ballon d'Or and he can do much better than what he did against Valladolid, but better than good, in my opinion.
On Camavinga, because this is a pretty relevant discussion right now on social media, and I put out a clip. I don't know if you saw about where I kind of stand on Camavinga starting or not. And I said I was okay with him coming off the bench because he's such a game changer off the bench. A couple of people disagree with me, and I'm totally okay if you want to disagree with that. I actually think it's a great idea to start him, as you said, for 10 games straight and just let him get that continuity and rhythm. I also think that him coming off the bench is kind of just for this part of his Real Madrid career right now. That's it.
Yeah.
Naturally, the conversation is if you start him, if you're going to start him for 10 games straight, let's say, then I would assume because you can't bench Fede, you put Fede on the right wing, and then that means you bench one of Modric or Kroos, and you're not benching Kroos because Kroos is probably playing the best football of his career, and then you're benching Modric not because Modric is bad, but because he's on older legs and he could use some break and stuff. And I suppose if it comes down to that, then that's something that Carlo has to decide. I would say that you're not going to bench Modric for 10 games straight, that's for sure. But you could rotate between benching one of Modric, Kroos, and resting one or the other. But again, I just don't see that being a thing right now with Modric and Kroos still here. But I think this is just, he's 20 years old. I still don't see that there's a rush with this right now because he's still being an important player. The game state just has suited him coming off the bench in various roles, whether it's with what he did with France in the World Cup final in a position he's absolutely not comfortable in, or in a game like this, or the games in the Champions League. He can do so much damage off the bench in those situations that I just don't see that there being a rush right now with starting him week in, week out when he's just making such an impact off the bench.
That's right, and that's fair. But on the other hand, maybe you have a pretty good chance of giving him the chance to feature in the starting lineup for 2, even 3 straight games now.
Sure.
Like obviously tomorrow against Cacareño I have to assume that he will start. maybe he wouldn't have been important for France in the World Cup, but I think he will start tomorrow. I don't think Ancelotti wants to experiment there, even though obviously Kroos and Modric are already staying at home for this game. And also the Spanish Super Cup is coming up. Maybe you don't want him to play in the final against Barcelona if Real Madrid obviously managed to advance in the semifinals, and Barcelona also knock out Atletico in the other semifinals. But at least 2 games, one against Cacareño and the other one against Valencia in the semifinal of the Spanish Super Cup, you might get a good chance of giving him the opportunity to feature in the starting lineup.
Well, let's talk about that game tomorrow. From the horse's mouth, Ancelotti himself has said these players will not play tomorrow. Courtois and Carvajal, partly down to they have slight issues, injury related. They won't play. He's not going to give any minutes to Kroos, Alba, Benzema, Vinicius, or Mendy. And then we also know 4 Castilla players have been called up: Sergio, Arribas, Nico Paz, Marvel, and Alvaro Rodriguez. 4 players who I'm really high on, especially the first 2, Arribas and Nico Paz. I'd love to see, even from the start. But it's interesting because he said this is, I mean, the way he worded it, maybe he didn't mean to word it this way, but he also said, he literally said, I won't give minutes to Kroos, Alba, Benzema, Vinicius, or Mendy, which indicates that, I don't know what that indicates. If the game is on the line and Real Madrid are somehow losing this game in the 80th minute, he's not gonna bring these players on, or in that situation, obviously maybe it's an exception and he has to throw his words out the window. But I'd like to make the case that I think Arribas and Nico Paz, or at the very least Arribas, should start. And my reasoning behind this is that we've seen it in so many years in the past where Real Madrid tried to take this game seriously by playing their starters because they don't want to risk it. And it completely backfires because the starters are just not getting up for it. So that's one thing. I think the benefit of playing like an Arribas or Nico Paz in this game is that they play with hunger. They want to prove something. So they're not going to come out kind of lackadaisical. They're not going to come out, not hungry enough, or like, oh, this is just a 3rd division team. I'm not going to take this seriously. This is like the level that they're used to. Plus they're surrounded with even better players in the team. I think this is the game you play them. It's now or never.
I don't know about Nico Paz, but Arribas I probably expect maybe to start. Hazard will probably start on the left wing, given that Ancelotti said it after the game in Valladolid. He announced that Hazard will play tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I could see Arribas on the right wing and maybe either Asensio or Rodrigo up front. It would be somewhat disappointing to me to see both Rodrigo and Asensio starting tomorrow. In my opinion, I would probably start Asensio as a false 9 tomorrow, with Arribas on the right and Hazard on the left. That's probably what I would do. Sorry. And I think, I don't know about Nico Paz. Maybe Ancelotti prefers to give him the opportunity to play later in the game if needed, or if Real Madrid have built a solid lead. But Arribas I can see starting, and I think he's ready for it. I think he's better than the opposition tomorrow. It's usually not the case with some of these Castilla players during the first round of the Copa del Rey, but I think Arribas is more than ready to face Cacareño, and I think Real Madrid will not lack any kind of presence from either Rodrigo or Asensio against Cacareño. And as you mentioned, Arribas guarantees the hunger aspect of the game against Cacareño tomorrow. So I could see him starting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mariano also not making the squad because of his ankle injury helps create some room for a player like that. And I suppose it depends on maybe if Ancelotti wants to go with a false 9 type player, because Arribas can play a little deeper, or if he wants to go more of a striker in that sense, maybe Alvaro Rodriguez will get the nod. Alvaro can play on the left wing, but striker is that's his best position. So I suppose it depends on the fit he wants to go for. But yeah, I would love to see these Castilla players in these games. Really high on these players, and I think it's a good situation for them to step in. Going over the starting lineup, do you wanna make some predictions on what we'll see tomorrow?
Lunin will obviously start in the goal. I think we can probably see minutes from Odriozola on the right wing. Maybe Ancelotti saves Lucas Vázquez, who is his main backup, for a more big opportunity, for a bigger game. I think Odriozola is also more than ready to face Cacareño, so he can probably play. And the center back, one of them will surely be Nacho, and I think maybe Vallejo is given the opportunity to start as well. Both Militao and Rudiger made the list, but maybe Nacho will be needed on the left side of the defensive line. That's what's a bit tricky about Real Madrid's squad list for tomorrow. The fact that Mendy is not there and Alaba isn't either. So I can either see either Rudiger or Nacho playing in that left side of the defense, but I'll go with Nacho there and maybe Vallejo with Militao in the center. For the midfield, I think Tchouaméni will probably start his first game after the break with Camavinga, Ceballos. I'm not sure about the midfield actually, because Valverde can use some minutes to increase his confidence, but on the other hand, he's probably too good for this game. Yeah. I'm not sure. Ancelotti will probably start Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Ceballos, even though Tchouaméni obviously played a lot of minutes in the break. I think it's a good opportunity for him to regain some confidence and fitness. And then I expect Hazard, Asensio, and maybe Arribas up front.
I'll sign up for that. Hazard, of course, had a goal in the Copa del Rey at this stage last year, did he not?
Last season, yeah.
Yeah.
No, later in the tournament, I think. Yeah, okay. It was against Elche, so it had to be a round of 16 or even quarterfinals. I'm not sure when that was, but it was against Elche, so it's not possible that it was the round of 38. It wasn't that early.
Maybe round of 16 or quarterfinals then. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I remember we were doing our podcast in Washington, D.C., and he scored that. I remember that vividly. I'll never forget that Hazard. I think he rounded the keeper. It was from decently.
Yeah.
I think it was far out. Yeah. Great goal. I totally lost track of time. I wanted to watch the Liverpool game, which started 5 minutes ago. Do we have any concluding thoughts or anything that stood out from you from Carlos Presser that you wanted to sign off with?
Not really. He just mentioned very briefly that he was asked about the cross situation. He said that the player is still considering it, but it would be crazy for him to retire considering the way he's played so far this season. So I would say that by reading what Ancelotti said and also by interpreting his body language during the press conference and all that, I think he's optimistic about Kroos potentially staying for another season. And quite frankly, I would be too, considering the way Kroos has played so far this season. I think it makes no sense to retire this early in his career with so much fuel in the tank. I think obviously he wants to retire on top, but this is way too on top in my opinion. This is too. You shouldn't be allowed to retire this good. You should be. Yeah, exactly.
It's respect. Like honestly, the thing is, nobody remembers if you decline and then retire after. You know, like 10 years from now, 50 years from now, whatever. We're not going to remember Cristiano Ronaldo for what he is right now. We're going to remember his great years.
Right.
No one remembers Michael Jordan and the Wizards. We remember him at the Bulls. No one Kroos. Forget about this stuff. We need you till the very last breath you have. So great on Carlo for putting the public pressure on. Let's pile it on.
Exactly, yeah.
Lucas, thanks for your time, my friend. You and I will be back on Thursday to answer questions that come in our mailbag over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. And if listeners want to access that, you get 2 bonus shows this week, one on Wednesday, one on Thursday, exclusively on Patreon, over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Thanks for your time, Lucas. Appreciate you. Take care, my friend.
No problem.
Talk soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, and before we wrap it up here, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, and specifically to our $10 plus patrons, because if you pledge $10 or more per month, you not only get access to everything and not only get guaranteed responses to your questions, you also get a specific shout out at the podcast. So shout out to our $10 plus patrons as follows: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Way Pairing, Tobias Arroyo Botcher, Talab Salhab, Tahmid Kalam, Sushank Damala, Sujai Wani, Sumanchu Singh, Sheikh Hatiri, Shamil, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solrosano, Samuel Justin, Samar Z, Said Mohad, Sai Mohan, Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Odayafati, Oscar Barrera, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Moeller, Nick Ribeiro, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lext, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jason Fitz, Ian Marley, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sunros, Faisal Hamdan, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Con P, Christian Toft, Christian Acosta, Charles Williams, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Ashik Bashar, Arnab Mukherjee, Arman Gashi, Armando L, Anirudh Singh, Ananya Kumar, Azaz Hussain, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalukovic, Adam Dorsey, Varun, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for being a part of this family. And Hala Madrid.